My name is Eric, and I'd like to welcome you to Vibes Coffee. We pride ourselves on fresh coffee and excellent customer service, but we are much more than that. Whether you want to hang with a few friends, get some work done, or experience the best brew downtown Columbia has to offer, visit us at 622 Canal Side Street. Come for the coffee, stay for the vibes.
Talk about going from, your freshman year drinking and going into a marriage, your sophomore year, and you kind of drinking those both things. And like how you said, you came straight into the marriage and, y'all party, y'all have fun. When did you notice that the relationship of the marriage and what you was building started to become very unhealthy?
Very shortly into the marriage, about 3 months into it, it became physical. Some physical, domestic issues going on there. So, and like I said, that was 3 months in. I was married for 6 years. So this went on for a long time. And I stayed, again, because I didn't think that I deserved any better. So.
Welcome back to another episode of the Shift Podcast. I'm super excited to be sitting in front of you in your house, in your cars, wherever you are. We are down in Vibes Coffee, 622 Canal Side Street, Columbia, South Carolina, and this is where we will be shooting season 2 at for the rest of season 2. So we're thankful for them to be able to sponsor us, allowing us to be here. I want to get into this intro though. I love a good intro about who we getting ready to speak with. But before I introduce you, I want to be able to kind of read her bio. From childhood wounds to addiction, motherhood, recovery, and purpose. Her story is a reminder that rock bottom does not have to be the end. She found strength in the gym, healing from discipline, and now she is using her journey to help others find their own. This is more than a comeback story. Welcome to the Shift Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. That was a beautiful introduction. Thank you.
When you think about that introduction, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Oh, I can't believe, I don't know. I'm here and that's my story. And I just feel empowered, just ready. I'm fired up to help others with my story. So
I don't want to kind of go too far into your journey just yet, but I kind of just want to start from the space and a place of, I know that you like to work and I know you like to be in the gym. Is this almost like you getting ready to lift some heavy weight and you got to be able to lock in to get ready to lift that weight?
Yeah.
I kind of just want to go into you being in the space of being, a little girl. What was life like that for you during that time?
Okay, so it was just me and my mom. So single parent household. But also my uncle moved in with us. He was an alcoholic. So it was like I was living two lives because on the one hand, I had my mom who was great. She tried to shelter me from a lot of things that, my dad was doing because he'd coming in and out, bringing all of his chaos with him. And then my uncle, I never knew what the day was going to bring, how he would show up to the house, he would get violent, things like that. But then I also had this mom who was a very loving, caring mother who worked really hard to protect me and take care of me. So I had a lot of love, but I also had a lot of chaos that I dealt with. Like I said, I never knew what I was coming home to.
No, go ahead.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, but living in that space as a little girl, did you recognize or notice that you was living in chaos, or did you feel like that what you was living in is very normal?
I think, looking back on it, I knew it wasn't normal because I kind of compared it to, my friends' households, but I believe I was just in survival mode. Your brain's amazing. It can help you forget a lot of things. And I think being in survival mode kind of saved me from I can't explain it.
Sure.
I felt okay. I thought I was okay. But I knew that how our house was, I knew it wasn't normal. And I couldn't have, wasn't comfortable having friends over, that kind of thing. But yeah, I was just in survival mode,
When you talk
Trying to
about
be-
your uncle, being an alcoholic, and you
Yeah.
talk about your dad coming in and out,
Yeah.
was that kind of the first stage in your life as a little girl when you kind of seen a male perspective of almost possibly this how males are?
Yeah. Yeah, because they were my, well, yes and no, I take that back. I did have my grandfather, but I didn't see him on a regular basis. We went over there a good bit, but like I said, he wasn't, he didn't raise me. But I did see the difference between him and the other men in my life. But no, they were my first examples of what males are. So.
What type of addiction, was your father battling during the times of you seeing him? That type of addiction?
So my father, he was addicted to crack cocaine. He became addicted when I was 4. So from, all I can remember, he was struggling with addiction. And he would disappear. He didn't live with us. He would show up once in a while. Take some of my things, say he was bringing them back and sell them. I didn't know what was going on at the time. I knew he was going through something, but I didn't quite understand or know about addiction at the time. So,
do you feel like that was his kind of like his way now that you're older and you kind of maneuvering through life and you kind of been some things? Do you feel like that was like a coping mechanism and like that was probably the strongest thing to like suppress everything that he was going through in life?
Absolutely. And we've had conversations about this now. And I do want to say he is a year clean now and he just became an ordained pastor. So,
Wow.
But yeah, we've had conversations and he shared some things about his childhood, some traumatizing things that happened to him as a child. And it was just, something to help him. He never learned coping mechanisms. He didn't grow up, he grew up in a household where his dad was an alcoholic and his mom was just emotionally unavailable, basically. So yeah, he was coping the best way.
When you talk about the absence of a father, oftentimes I've noticed or realized that it can affect you as a girl growing up and kind of maneuvering through your adult life. My question then becomes, did it affect you at any given time of kind of like the absence in your life early on?
Yes, it affected my self-worth, because now looking back, I didn't know this then, but looking back on it now, I didn't feel worthy of love. I had abandonment issues. And so I became someone who chased love. I just wanted to be loved by someone, anyone. So it affected my choice in partners, the people that I surrounded myself with, which is eventually how I ended up going through addiction myself. So yeah, I chose people that weren't good for me, just because I was so desperate to be loved and feel like I was worthy. And
what was the biggest thing that you think that little girl needed but didn't know how to ask for other than love?
Stability. Yeah, that's one thing that comes to mind. Positive role models. Yeah.
When you talk about self-worth, confidence, and some of the hidden struggles that you kind of face, when we had a conversation kind of off camera, when did you first realize that those were the battles that you were facing inside of yourself?
It wasn't until I started going to the gym, and I started to gain confidence. The stronger I got, the more confident, I'm like, well, I can do hard things. And so I pushed and I pushed, and the stronger I got, the more confidence I got. And then that's when the real healing and inner work, like I said, lifting was a catalyst of a lot of positive change in my life. And, it didn't happen overnight. I had to keep at it. But it just made me see something in myself that I hadn't seen before. And that kept me to, dig deeper and try to figure out why, and then look at, because as I started to grow and change and evolve, I looked at the people around me. And, like I said, I surrounded myself with people who weren't good for me. I went a lot of self-sabotaging, and that was part of it, So as I grew, I was like, I have to leave these people behind. But
When you talk about, I know when you talked about how when you grew, you had to leave these people behind, but for a moment when you were kind of maneuvering through those spaces and you had to leave those people behind, do you think the people that you was kind of moving up to and being around, do you think they knew the hidden struggles that you had?
So this is actually an interesting part of the story. So the gym that I joined, and I didn't know when I joined, but after a while of going there, the owner actually, it was part of his story. He had gone through addiction, and so we shared that common ground. But a lot of people, they didn't know until, I shared, it was a tight-knit community, so I did share with some of them. So I hope that answers your question.
No, for sure. Before addiction ever entered your life, what were some of the signs that you already were hurting internally?
Before addiction. So the people I chose to be with, my partners, in my relationships. When I went to college, I drank like, college kids do, but I would just drink to the point of hurting myself, blacking out. I was very reckless. Yeah.
Okay, what did college look like for you when you first got there?
Okay, when I first got there, I was all in, and I always did well in school, but I got there, I joined a sorority. I was trying to push myself out of my comfort zone. I joined a sorority. I was very active in college. I was making great grades, but I partied hard. Did some drugs, party drugs, but I was still, on the right track as far as school goes. But then it was when I entered in that relationship. I got married my sophomore year, and again, that goes back to that whole self-worth thing. I still didn't love myself, and I just was kind of faking it to make it. But I ended up meeting this guy. He was a brother of a friend of mine back in the day. And the reason I got married, because I was like, well, no one ever, this is my shot, no one's going to love me. Let me just get married so I don't have to worry about it anymore, which is crazy. But so I was 20, got married, and that's when things just went downhill.
How did partying and drinking become part of your college experience?
How did it become part of it? I don't know. It just was, I thought that's what I was supposed to do, go and party. I just started going out with friends. My sibling was actually going to USC at the time. And so, we would just go out, but I would always take it way too far. I'd be the one that would need to be taken care of, and also in social situations. So because I was around all these different people, right, from all walks of life, mostly people from what I assume, good households. And so as soon as I would get to a party, the first thing I would head straight for the drinks. So that because the more I drank, the more comfortable I felt to socialize, and and it would just be the first one tore up.
So we call it liquor courage. So
that liquid courage. Yeah. I couldn't socialize at a party until,
When did you notice that you had to, when alcohol started to become not fun anymore? When did you notice that, or do you feel like you never kind of hit that space in your life?
I definitely hit that when I was in my marriage.
Okay.
Because I stayed drunk mostly throughout it to cope.
And when you talk about getting married, your sophomore year, you talk about self-love and you trying to like figure that space out in your life. When you first got married, did you drinking being enhanced more, or was it kind of like a lesser thing?
When I got married.
Yeah, when you got married.
Yeah, absolutely. That's mostly what we did was party. So.
And did that feel like love in that given time of your life?
Yeah, I mean, because, he was with me, so I thought that, I was willing to accept anything because I didn't believe I deserved or could get any better, so.
But what was some of the voids that you was trying to fill in that season of your life other than self-love?
I guess like I said, I dealt with abandonment. So having somebody there with me, I didn't feel alone because I often felt alone as a child, because fire is going on all around me and, nobody's really, my mom was very, she was using all her energy and resources to work and provide. And so I did spend a lot of time just alone with myself. So just having somebody there with me.
When you talk about going from, your freshman year drinking and going into a marriage, your sophomore year, you kind of drinking those both things. And like how you said, you came straight into the marriage and, y'all party, y'all have fun. When did you notice that the relationship of the marriage and what you was building started to become very unhealthy?
Very shortly into the marriage, about 3 months into it, it became physical. So some physical, domestic issues going on there. So, and like I said, that was 3 months in. I was married for 6 years. So this went on for a long time. And I stayed, again, because I didn't think that I deserved any better. So
why did you choose to stay for 6 years?
Because I can only think that it's because, like I said, when you don't love yourself or value yourself, you're willing to accept anything. And I would have rather had him and him treat me the way that he did instead of leave and be alone. And then I ended up having my son towards the end of the marriage. And that was what helped me take the step to get out of it.
And how did that change kind of the weight of what you was carrying through those 6 years to having your son in 2017?
So in 2017, after I had him, now this was, I had fallen into addiction shortly before having him. I didn't use while I was pregnant, but then right after, I jumped right back into it. But so he was about 8 months old, and I just woke up one day and I looked around and I was like, my son can't grow up this way. And even still, that wasn't enough to keep me clean. It took about 3 years after that, but that did give me the courage to leave the marriage, having him and just realizing that he can't grow up the way that I did.
Before you had him and
Yeah.
after you had him, what were some of the addictions that you kind of had that you struggled with within your life?
Oh, okay. So it started with alcohol. And in my marriage, I did drink a lot. I know it was just because that's the life that we lived. But it wasn't until he had brought several drugs around me. I had walked in on him doing cocaine. I walked in on him doing meth, and I didn't know that he did these things. And it was the alcohol that I remember. I was drunk one day, and he had brought crack, and I remember even thinking about my dad before I did it. But I drank, and that's why I was just like, yeah, sure, why not,
My name is Eric, and I'd like to welcome you to Vibes Coffee. We pride ourselves on fresh coffee and excellent customer service. but we are much more than that. Whether you want to hang with a few friends, get some work done, or experience the best brew downtown Columbia has to offer, visit us at 622 Canal Side Street. Come for the coffee, stay for the vibes.
So then I tried it, and for a while it was just, we kind of dabbled here and there. And then it was after my son, he continued to use throughout my pregnancy. Then after I had my son, I was going through, I guess, postpartum, and then I came into tax money, and it just kind of boom, like that, went from 0 to 100, and yeah.
When you talk about using that substance, what was that like during that season? Like, how do that substance make you feel, like nothing in life matters for those couple of hours and moments?
It is an insanely powerful drug. And because of that, after having my own experience with it, all the things my dad did just made sense. Cause I'm like, it takes control of you. And, like I said, that's why I had to fight. Even when I started lifting and I started doing the things, right, it still took time for me to get clean because it just had such a strong hold. I don't know what it is, but yeah. So it was a fight. Yeah. To get there, but
when you talk about, and I kind of just want to stay here for that second, for someone that's trying to get off that substance, is really trying to push forward to becoming something, when you talk about it has an effect, can you take me through some of the effects that it did have on your life and how the effects is actually happening in that very moment?
Okay, like things that it made me do,
yes,
kind of thing. Yes. Okay, so I'm selling things to get it. I stole from, my parents to get it. Putting myself in dangerous places, around dangerous people. Being gone for what I would call benders. I'd be gone for like a week at a time. Just no sleep, just going. And I even had, people tell me like, you need to slow down. Like even people who are using right beside me, they're like, you are going hard. Like you need to slow down. And even then it like, in the moment when you're high, it's like, it doesn't really, register what they're saying. But after the fact, I'm like, damn, I had people telling me like who are, in active addiction, that I was going way too hard and I was gonna end up killing myself. So
did you know that at that given time? Because like sometimes, I have moments where, I'm not saying I endure the substance, but I have moments where, things may arise and it may make me feel some type of way. And, I don't know how to chill in this because I never, faced this type of thing in my life. Did you know that when people around you were saying that, hey, you need to slow down, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do that, like, did you know that you was getting ready to literally crash mentally?
No, because it's just that powerful. Like you just don't care, and you're just ready for that next hit. You're just chasing. I'd be like, oh, and just keep going. Yeah, it's crazy.
So when you talk about, you indulging that and you kind of going and, life is pushing, but then, 9 months later, you didn't have a baby. How were you able to not even try to indulge or do it during those 9 months?
I can't explain it other than I knew it wasn't just me anymore. I was willing to hurt myself, but I knew I couldn't do that too much. I don't know. I really don't. I guess just, I don't know. Yeah. I knew I just didn't want to hurt my child, but even after I had him, I took him with me to some places, so like it's not, yeah. He went to the trap house with me a couple times. So, I don't know. But my husband, he used it around me. Yeah.
At that given point, when you talk about going to different places, right? We're not going to name these places, right?
No, yeah.
What are you talking about? We talk about going to these different places and really trying to get that next hit. At any given chance during that time, do you felt like you was like, okay, possibly my son is in danger, or, I'm not really worried about it. I just really need to get this next test because right now life is very overwhelming for me.
I really just, I was gonna go get my fix, but I'm like, I'm feeding him in the back, he's in his car seat, I'm feeding him, and then I'm stepping out of the car to like, I wasn't smoking in the car, but I get out and smoke it, and I'm like checking on him and everything. It's wild, but like I knew it wasn't right, but when you're high, you don't care.
Yeah, you don't care, yeah.
You just don't care. And like when I would be out for weeks, like I'd leave him at my house. We had lived with my parents, and my mom would send me pictures of him, and it wouldn't really, faze me because I'm just high and wanting to get high. So you just don't care about anything else but getting high.
When you're moving in this space, how are you able, in this sense, because it seems like you're still functioning, right? How are you able to be, a functioning person that deals with substance?
So, and I've asked myself that same question, and all I can explain is that I've always felt, even in active addiction, even when I was deep in the trenches, I felt like I was meant for more. But I was, like I said, I was living two lives. And there was one point where I was functioning. I would go to work, and then I would get off and I'd get high. And then I'd go to work, get off and get high. But then it got to a point where I wasn't even going to work. So I don't know. I just have always had this feeling that I didn't, I was meant for more and that this wouldn't be my ending, but I needed something to make me feel better.
Yeah.
So
you talk about just now, you kind of rolling into my next question. You talk about being meant for more. You talk about, like you said earlier, doing the hard things. What was one of the things that you had to look yourself in the mirror and face in that season of your life? Like, to simplify that question a little bit, how did you look yourself in the mirror every day and face that season of your life?
The best way I can explain it is like just that fire in me. Like I felt I had a purpose, and I didn't quite know what it was. And that really kept me going. And I mean, there's other, like I said, I had my son to think about.
I'm gonna take you back to a moment.
Okay.
I don't know if you're gonna remember about this, but you said you described a season of your life as a Jerry Springer lifestyle.
Yeah.
What did that daily life feel like during that time?
It was, so it was drinking every day. My ex, he really, when I say Jerry Springer life, I'm referring to him and his family.
Yeah.
Because they were kind of family that, it was crazy because on the one hand, they all seemed very close-knit, whatever, but I mean, they're having fights with each other, like brawls, punching each other, like calling the cops on each other 24/7. And so that's what my life was like. I never knew what was going to happen. And I threw myself into his family because I wanted to be a part of a family because I was missing that. So they were like the closest family I had, and that's what life was like. His mom was on drugs. His dad was an alcoholic. They would get into brawls. I got in a fight with his aunt at I don't remember, it was like a holiday gathering, and we were all drunk, and I just remember getting into a fist fight with her. And so I remember we were over there, I think it was for New Year's, and I had my cousin, and me and him are fighting his aunt and grandpa. It was just pure craziness.
Do you think
and that was that, and I felt like the normal one in the group. So, and I think in a sense, like they made me feel better about myself, if I'm being honest. So
I was about to get ready to ask, so, living that type of lifestyle, that given time of your life, do you think that brought you a lot of love? Because, you was fighting for him. And
it felt like love because all I knew was chaos, really. Like like I said, they fought each other, but they had each other's backs. Like, it was weird. And so that felt like love to me because,
Did you ever for a moment think about that? I'm kind of hearing two different things that kind of just ring the bell in my ear. You say that you grew up in a house that, that dealt with different substance and alcohol, and he came from a space where he grew up in a space where was also a. Do you ever think for that moment when you finally realized that they kind of did the same thing, that you were recreating a thing that you didn't want to live in?
When it came to like my son and when
Yeah.
because like I said, I woke up and I was just like, this cannot be his life, because at the time it was like that, so yeah.
When you talk about finally, what was the first step in your life where you was like, okay, this has to stop? Take me through that day when you said it, this has to stop.
For
just dealing with like substance leaving him and all that.
Okay, so really it was literally like I just woke up one day and I was like I said, my son can't grow up in this, and then I made the steps to get out of the situation. So I had planned, I told my mom I was finally gonna leave, so we were putting the steps in place for me to move out, and I told my ex, that I was leaving, and he just didn't believe me. So he actually called the cops the night before I was going to leave, and like locked himself into a car. It was a whole thing. So even then he was trying to prevent me from leaving, but it was just like an aha moment. I just knew that he couldn't, like that couldn't be his life. So like I said, I made the decision, I put the plans in place, and I didn't give myself a chance to step back from that and to change my mind, because I had many times before that. So I just acted. Yeah.
What was the hardest part about starting over?
Hardest part about starting over. I was at the bottom. I had nothing. I didn't know where I was going to go. Thankfully I had my family, so I had a roof over my head, but I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what life was going to look like. I had already, I couldn't go back to school because I couldn't afford it. I had exhausted all my financial aid, so I didn't have that to fall back on. It was just not knowing what was next for me. Right. And so, yeah.
I kind of want to shift the conversation about the gym. You keep mentioning the gym. What was those weights? What did that give you? Because I remember a time when I used to constantly work and I used to get up and I used to lift those weights. Sometimes it just felt like I can just get all the aggression and all the things that when I lift that weight, it just felt like it's a release in my body. What did that give you in that season of life?
It empowered me. Like I said, I got stronger mentally. I was able to do hard things and to push through. And it just empowered me to keep going. It gave me a goal to work towards. But it was just an outlet to get all those feelings out when I'm in the gym. It's just me. And when everything's so loud in my head and I don't know how to deal with it, it just I'm just locked in. It's just me and the weights. I can slow down, really come into my body, and but it's the mental benefits. Like I said, getting strong is great, but it just does something for your mental fortitude. It's that empowerment. I can lift these heavy weights, but then when I step outside of here, I can make hard decisions. I can do hard things outside and in life and face them with more clarity. And when you start to feel better about yourself and you start to love yourself more, you incorporate better habits, surround yourself with better people. So it really affected every aspect of my life after that, because I'm working on myself, I'm growing. I'm challenging myself in the gym, but then also outside of it as well.
When did you notice that that was like one of your first steps to healing? Like, I know you just talked about all of those things, but like, when did you know that when you finally went home and you got at workout and you got all of those things out of you and you laid in the bed or in the couch or in the restroom and you finally said, you know, I'm healing. I'm healing from everything that I've went through.
So, like I said, I surrounded myself with different people. I did try to reconcile with my ex, you know, while I was still new to the gym and but very into it. I wasn't willing to tolerate things that I tolerated before.
You mentioned now your recovery process and how you recover and how you are pushing through in this space. You know, what is the biggest thing that you learned about the recovery process now as we sit down and talk?
It's different for everyone. I didn't go through a recovery program. I had went through to a couple NA meetings, but it's, you know, relapses are gonna happen. It's not overnight. You have to first of all, you have to surround yourself with different people. Like that's just places and things. Yeah. You have to surround yourself with different people. You have to stay away from the places that you went to when you were using, and finding something. You have to get to the root of your pain. You have to sit with yourself and figure out what it is you're running from. Because usually it's, you know, you're trying to cope or deal with something. There's some inner wound there. But really it takes a lot of work. Yeah, you have to, a lot of self-reflection. There's going to be setbacks, but you just have to keep pushing. One step in front of the other, you're going to take 2 steps back. But you just have to keep going, surround yourself with better people, find something, find an outlet, anything that helps you, whether it be therapy or, you know, like I said, going to the gym. I mean, really anything that helps you get out of your head and into your body so that you can gain some clarity and really, like I said, get to the root of it. So.
When you look at yourself now in the mirror, now that you have overcame all of these different things, what is the number one thing that you feel as though that you're most proud of deep down inside?
Breaking the generational curses, because as I dove into healing, I realized that this goes way back on both sides of my family. So breaking the cycle for my son, because I actually had this realization just a couple weeks ago. This was in therapy, and my therapist really helped me see that I'm creating, like, my son is living a totally different life than I did, than his father, my parents, his parents. So to realize that was just amazing. And I had never seen it like that, but that would be.
How does that make you feel inside that you have overcame these things and now you're able to give your son a new life?
Oh my gosh, I can't even put it into words. I'm proud. I'm proud of myself. Grateful. Yeah.
You said to me off camera that you are 5 years clean.
Yeah.
I just want to
July 4th.
I want to say congratulations to that.
Thank you.
Coming up on 6 years.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, when you hear the word, I'm finally clean, what comes to mind?
Freedom. Freedom, because I'm thriving, I'm living life. Like, for so long, I just wasn't living. Freedom. Because I'm not held down by, addiction and what comes with it, I get to live life, so.
When you talk about being a little girl, gotta take me back a moment, right? I just want you to hear some of the things that you just overcame. You was a little girl, that was raised around addiction, alcohol. And, as you went off to go to college and go have fun, you realized that there was self-love that you was dealing with inside, right? You noticed it and you wanted anything and everything in your life to make you feel love. And in the mix of you making you feel love and wanting you to basically feel love, you then decided to go to college, and that's where you had even more fun, right? You drink, you get to hide yourself, you get liquor courage, right? And as you indulge in that, you end up meeting someone your sophomore year, and you take a risk because like you feel like this person loves you, and you take off and you really have fun. But in this space, abuse has happened in so many different ways. In this space, you're drinking more than ever, and like in the mix of that, you're still trying to find yourself. But throughout the 6 years, towards the end, you end up having a child, and you stop. But then you go back and you start indulging in different substances like crack and all those different things. But you now found a way out for the gym to be able to pick you up, lift weights, get those things out of you. And that takes a lot of strength to get to that place, because some people never get an opportunity to get out of that. When you talk about, or when you look back over your life, if you had to define your life in one word, how would you define it?
Resilience. Yeah. Because, no matter what I went through, I just kept going. Yeah.
When you talk about going through all that, to someone that's living in the mix of it, to someone that's getting ready to pick up a blunt, to someone that's getting ready to drink, to someone that's getting ready to indulge in substance, alcohol, any type of substance that could take over your body, what would you say to them?
It's not worth it. It's not gonna fill that hole. It might feel good temporarily, but it's only gonna cause more problems in the end. And you really ask yourself why you're going for that thing. Yeah.
When you talk about going through all of that, then you turn around and you are now working in a gym, not working out in the gym, doing those hard things, but then you end up returning to school and becoming a teacher. How has that season of your life been?
Oh man, it's been great. Actually, I'm gonna graduate in December. I work with middle schoolers, so it's a very pivotal age. But I love that I get to be a mentor for them as well as a teacher. So I love it. Actually, I work with the drumline now, and they're doing great things. So that's been really cool. So just, it's awesome to see, what's on the other side of addiction. Like, yeah.
You work with a special type of middle schools. What type of middle schools do you work with?
So I work in the literacy lab with students. We try to get them, it's an intervention class, to get students on reading on grade level, but I am in school for special education.
Okay.
And I will teach resource once I'm certified.
And why did you choose special education to try to go into?
Because I struggled in school. I did well in school, but I had to work really hard to overcome some challenges. So I can just relate and reach them at the level that they need. Yeah.
What does becoming a teacher, after everything that you survived throughout your whole life up until now, how does that help you to make an impact on the students' lives to maybe one day they may face some of the things that you face? So
that actually is what I'm most excited about teaching. I get to use the wisdom that, I have now from the things that I've been through to mentor them, to, teach them about, the importance of who you surround yourself with and helping them build confidence in themselves. Because like I said, that's a very hard age. I remember being a middle schooler. So just helping foster that confidence and self-worth in them to the best of my ability, because I know that that's that's a very important thing to me.
You talk about returning to school and not only becoming a teacher, but you also talk about starting a drum line at your school where you work. How big is that? How important is that to you?
That it's a full circle moment. That was my thing in school, was marching band, drums. And it wasn't something I sought out. It was actually presented to me when I had asked if I could just like play in the pep rally that we had, and it became that. I'm also thinking about starting a powerlifting team because I do powerlift for those kids who they don't want to do team sports, but they just want to do something, and hopefully they find their strength and their power through it. So yeah, that's so great.
So you talk also about starting a powerlifting club. Why is that so personal to you to be able to help impact students to basically start this powerlifting club?
Because like I said, because the root of my issues was my self-worth and self-love and confidence, and I just want to give, like I said, middle school is a very rough age. I just want the kids to feel as confident and as powerful as they can, because that is going to help shape the decisions that they make moving forward. If I can build their confidence, you never know what kids are going through. So I think it would be a great outlet for that. So.
You talk about your father is now 19 months clean and now has become a pastor, something that you flashed early on, kind of in the closing of the show. What does that mean to you now to see your father 19 months clean and him becoming a pastor, him also changing his life? A huge part of me healed when that happened, because it was like finally, because we've been down this road several times, and he's been clean for, months on at a time here and there, but I just felt that this time was different, and it was just like finally. So that little girl in me was like, I have my dad. Has your relation with your father changed through both of your recoveries and through both of you all's journeys?
Yeah, because we both watched each other go through it, and now we're here and we can we understand each other a little better, and we've gotten closer through it. So
got two more questions and get ready to close the show. Who are you today that the younger version of you would be proud of?
Like I said, I love myself now. I didn't when I was younger. I'm confident. I have self-worth now. Yeah, I'm here doing the thing.
Well, I just want to thank you and tell you that you doing the hard things and you overcoming those things. I know to the people that's watching this and the people that's going to watch this episode, I pray and hope that it helps them get over to some of the hard things that you kind of going through. And, I realize and notice that, our journeys is just not for us, for other people. Yeah. And considering that you have doing that and going through these things, I thank you for, sharing and opening up to the platform and those things.
Of course. Thank you for allowing a platform to do that. So.
No, for sure. Thank you all so much for tuning into the Shift Podcast. Don't forget to check out Bob's Coffee, Columbia, South Carolina, 622 Canal Side Street. To the audience, we say peace. Cut.
My name is Eric, and I'd like to welcome you to Vibes Coffee. We pride ourselves on fresh coffee and excellent customer service, but we are much more than that. Whether you want to hang with a few friends, get some work done, or experience the best brew downtown Columbia has to offer, visit us at 622 Canal Side Street. Come for the coffee, stay for the vibes.